The game library of the Atari 7800 is probably the least documented on YouTube. Because of that, I've decided it's the perfect console to try to conquer the library of. The library might be small, but these games are undocumented and difficult. Join us as one man tries to beat the Atari 7800 library.
And this is the second episode of Man vs. 7800. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks to the people that subscribed after the first video and gave kind words and kind criticism. It's all appreciated. So in this video, we're going to be completing Tower Toppler. And this is the first time that I actually ever completed Tower Toppler. I did it right on the recording here, so it was kind of fun and it was really exciting to do. Unlike Midnight Mutants, which was the first game I beat, that I had done and completed many times before, but this was my first time beating Tower Toppler. And I gotta say, I'm really proud of the gameplay because I did not look up any guides. I didn't get any tips. I did all of this on my own. And I think it'll be obvious from the kind of unoptimized gameplay and the silly routes that I took going through here. But as I get through some of these easier towers here, let's go over a little bit of the history of Tower Toppler. And it has a bit of a pedigree to it because it's a game that was programmed and created by John M. Phillip, who seems to be pretty well known in the industry, at least in the European industry of video games. He received a Golden Joystick Award in 1988 for his work on this game, the C64 version known as Nebulous. He received a Golden Joystick Award the next year for Programmer of the Year. So the guy really, got a good call to fame from doing this game, or the original version called Nebulous. It was ported to the US and dubbed Tower Toppler, and then was ported to the Atari 7800 under that name. John Phillips, however, did not do this port. I know that almost for a fact. The port was done at a company called US Gold, as far as I can tell. Somebody named Peter Pakla mentioned that it was done at the desk next to his at US Gold while he did another 7800 game that we'll talk about in a later episode. So the 7800 port, whoever did it, it's kind of lost to time. They're not credited on the screen. John Phillips gets credit for the original idea. Houston Consultants gets credit as the original publisher of the game, but we don't know who programmed this version, and that's really unfortunate because that's the kind of information I'd like to know. And if you have any ideas or you know who programmed this game, put it in the comments below because I really like to look into the guy that did it and see what else he did. But a little bit more about John Phillips, who did Nebulous, the original version of Tower Toppler. He was, and I believe it still is, involved in the industry, has been since 1984. He did several C64, Commodore 64 games. He went on to do a few DOS games. Flight of the Amazon he was involved with. Back to the Future 3 he was involved with in the audio. And he also went on to do Speedball 2 for the Sega Genesis, and seems to have a long, fruitful career with the Bitmap brothers. So John Phillips really seems to have done well for himself. He even made a sequel to this game, Nebulous 2, which I know nothing about. I don't believe it was ported as many places as this version was. Another cool thing about Tower Toppler is that this game was actually released on the NES and Game Boy as well. It came out as Castilian. I don't know why they changed the name a third time, and I believe this game has had like 5 or 6 names throughout the world, so it's known as Nebulous, Tower Toppler, Castilian, and who knows what else, but they're all ports of this same game. So just looking at the gameplay here, this game really is, there's two different parts to it. You got the towers, which is an awesome sort of three-dimensional thing where your character always stays centered on the screen and the tower spins around him. So it looks really cool, and it's really impressive for the 7800 because you didn't really get a lot of neat games like that. You know, this and Ball Blazer, you know, had that pseudo 3D thing going on. But you also have the underwater stages that we were just looking at. And that has that awesome parallax scrolling with multiple layers of the background scrolling at different speeds, and it really makes for a cool effect that, again, I don't think the 7800 was really known for, but the 7800 can do a lot more than I think people ultimately give it credit for. And so I'm working my way right now through some of the easier towers. These towers never really gave me much trouble. It's actually the next tower that I was probably stuck on for quite a few years, because I've been casually trying to beat this game for a very long time. This game has kicked my butt many years. But these levels here are probably, you know, fairly easy with some persistence to get through, and that's really what this game requires, is a lot of patience, persistence, and probably a fair amount of luck as well. And I say luck because I don't know if the other versions are like this, but I think it has something to do with the memory limitations here, where the obstacles get drawn into memory and taken out of memory. And what happens is sometimes they get put into memory and sync with one another. So you'll have like two molecules that are going in an up and down pattern that are supposed to be, you know, going at different times, but they've spawned in so that they're both moving in the same pattern, and they're near impossible to get by. The only thing you can really do is run into one of them to try to get their timing out of whack, or in sync the way it probably should have been. And that really feels like something that shouldn't be happening. So I'm just curious if maybe that's something this game is known for in all versions, or if it's just a 7800 version thing. But here we take down another tower in quick succession. This gameplay I'm doing a little bit different than the last one. The last video was all unedited, one go through. This video is all from one single play session, but what I did is I edited out the parts where I died repeatedly at the same spot. So especially on the last two towers, I probably died about 5 or 6 times. I didn't use the continue, I didn't use the level select, but I cut out the games where I died multiple times because, number one, I kept dying at the same spots, so obviously it was annoying to watch me die over and over again, and I didn't want to push you guys through that. But also it helped to keep the timing of the video down because it was approaching about an hour in length, and voicing that over was painful for even me to listen to, so I can't imagine how you guys would have felt. So here, this tower I was probably stuck on for the longest amount of time of any of the towers. And it was mainly that first section where you have to jump over the two sparks or molecules or whatever you want to call them. Getting that timing down, for some reason I cannot figure it out. And even though there is a level select that, you know, you can get back to the tower immediately and keep trying it, I never use that feature. I always start from the beginning. Because number one, usually when I come back to this game I'm pretty rusty, so I need to practice. But number two, it just didn't feel right starting where I left off. I kind of like starting from the beginning and working my way there, because I get more continues, and ultimately I'll have 4 or 5 chances instead of just the 2 that you start with. And the funny thing about the level select that they built in, it was a nice feature and a nice idea, but people overlook the difficulty switches, and the difficulty switches are what gives you access to the level select. So I don't know how many times I've gone on forums or Facebook and I've seen people say, I just got Tower Toppler for the 7800 and my cartridge is broken. It just cycles through the levels. I see the guy get out of the sub, and then it goes to the next level, gives the name, he gets out of the sub, and I can't play the game at all. And, you have to tell him, play with the difficulty switches, and you'll be able to play whatever level that you flip the switch on. But it's just kind of funny because I remember thinking the same thing the first time I got Tower Toppler, is what the heck is going on here? This game isn't working right. But it's actually a feature that was pretty nice for the time, because I can't think of too many games that let you pick a starting point or go back to where you left off. At least not without a password or a battery backup or something. So here we get back. Again, this is what I'm talking about with the multi-layer scrolling. You can see the front part of the background is moving faster than the middle, and the middle's faster than the back. And then you got the sky kind of going at different speeds. It just looks awesome. But what kind of looks weird is the fish that you're shooting there kind of looks like cocktail shrimp. So I think you're catching them in nets, but I always thought it looked kind of weird that you're going through and you're shooting cocktail shrimp and turning them into these orbs and taking them into your little sub there. So this is a tower that I don't recall having much difficulty with this tower ever. I don't know what it was about it, but it seemed like from the first time I got to it, I did pretty good right from the start, so I don't think it's because I'm good at the game at all, because trust me, I'm not. But for whatever reason, I took to this tower pretty good, which I cannot say for most of the towers. So here, this is where they really start kind of going nuts with the disappearing platforms and the squares and stuff. You gotta make sure you're really paying attention to all that and shooting the squares at the right time. And this is also where the leaps of faith start to come in, and that, again, it just seems like a trap for newer players, but once you learn it, it's rewarding to go through each tower and topple them. And here I glitched through the wall again. I think you're supposed to wait for the elevator to go down and kind of leap across the gap there. But what you can do is shoot and hop and shoot and hop, and then you can make your way through barriers and platforms and stuff like that. So with that strategy, I think you could probably do some big levels, or some big skips of some of the levels, and probably get some really good times and scores going. I don't think many people have looked into that at all, but that's something, if you want to get a high score or a speed run, you might want to look into doing that some more. I don't know that I've seen many people use that glitch, but I know I've heard Vinny Vineyard or Cousin Vinny talk about it before from Atari 7800 Forever. So here's another tower down. One thing about these videos, not only is it a record of how to beat these games and that they are in fact beatable, but it also makes for a good guide, I think, for people that are interested in learning about these games and playing them in the future. Not that, I'm not sure that there's going to be a whole lot of interest, but there really should be, because the 7800 never seemed to have got its time back in the day when it was on the market. It kind of got ignored, and even today when people talk about retro games and collecting and stuff, it seems to continue to get ignored a lot by the greater collecting community, and it's really a shame, because there is not only so many good games like this, but there's games being produced today that are just incredible, and I plan on featuring one of those here very soon as well. And I think Dragon's Havoc will be the first game I attempt to beat here on the channel. That's a homebrew. So here I make quite a few mistakes in this tower, and again, this is a tower I'm not extremely familiar with. This isn't one that I played through a lot, and I'm not sure what I'm thinking here, because I probably could have went back the other way, but again, I don't claim that this is optimized gameplay at all. And going back and watching myself play, I can really see spots that I could have improved at. So here, for some reason, I try to glitch through the wall here, and again, I don't think this is a good use of this sort of glitch that you know we discovered, but I did it anyway. And now we make our way to probably one of the harder parts of the level here. Now this is something that you have to get used to, backing up and jumping to each of those platforms. That's something that becomes real handy in the next tower or so. Or maybe it's the end of this tower, I can't honestly remember, but that's something that I remember took me a while to learn. And so here now we move to that platform, and we're going to get ready to go up to the upper level here. And again, I'm trying to remember, because I think, yes, this part here, this is the part where backing up and jumping becomes extremely important. My initial strategy was to kind of just run against the platform and mash the jump button, and occasionally you'll make your way up, but kind of going back and forth like this is the optimal way of going up that stretch of platforms there. Well, until you learn that, you really can't make it past that part. Trust me, I tried. And the other thing is you really want to wait for the ball to hit and then follow it. Now there I waited a little too long. What you want to do is be at the platform right underneath of it and start jumping as soon as you get the room, because you really have just enough time to pull this off. And in case you can't tell, I get turned around quite a bit. I think all I needed to do there was jump off the back, but actually I think it was quicker to go this way, and I don't think I could have beat the level in the time given if I went the appropriate way. And you can see here that this was a photo finish for me, because if you've ever played Tower Toppler, you know you have to be dead center with these doors. And you can see I had 2 seconds left, and I was trying to get into that door since about 4 seconds. But I was not perfectly centered, and I was sure that I was going to run out of time. So that was kind of a nerve-wracking tower to get through. But we're looking pretty good heading to the end of the game. We have a full stock of lives, 8 lives. But I'm going to run through them pretty quickly here, and I believe I edited out a few failures on this tower, and then I edited out about 5 failures on the last tower. So again, I'm just saving you guys from having to watch terrible gameplay where somebody dies at the same spot a couple times in a row before it finally clicks. So if you don't believe that I beat this in one sitting, I'll put out the full unedited video just so it's out there, but you're not going to want to watch it, trust me. Because here you can see I'm already down a life. And I think I actually went down 2 lives, but I think I got enough points to get, as you see there, I just got enough points to get my 8th life back. So I'm pretty sure I failed this twice, but I got enough points to get my lives back. And they are pretty generous with the time they give you. 220 seconds is quite a bit of time. You know, it's what, 3.5 minutes, and if you know what you're doing, you can get through these towers pretty quickly, I have to say. But the key thing is learning what to do, having that patience to play a 7800 game and figure it out is key. And this is a part here that took me a while to figure out, because you have to follow behind this molecule pretty tightly, and it wants to initially go the wrong way, so you have to let it kind of bounce off and start heading the right way. And it's just a difficult section. It looks easy once you know how to do it, but I didn't know how to do it for a long time. And this part here, when I was talking about earlier where things get out of sync or in sync with each other, I guess would be more appropriate, that's a part right there that I struggled with, because it seemed like all three of those molecules or sparks or whatever were at the same height, and it seems like they should kind of be going at different timings so you can run under it and get the feel for it. But again, I think it has something to do with the memory and the way the enemies are loaded into memory. But I could be wrong. I'd be interested to know if anybody's played any of the other versions of this game. Speaking of bad gameplay, I'm not doing so hot here, but I do complete it on this run. And here I believe now the timing is correct. But before I couldn't have done that. But anytime you see like 4 things in a row there, or if there's multiple doors, always go for the third, and that becomes very important at the end of the game too. Again, this is my first time not only beating the game, but even seeing the very top of the last tower, and I kept in mind that rule of 3, because it always seems like when you're given an option of going through 4 different doors or 4 different elevators, the third one is always the correct option. Not always, but it seems like it. So here we're going through the last underwater stage. And again, these stages don't really change up all that much, at least not that I could tell. But they're still a lot of fun. And you can really rack up a lot of points. I think to get a high score or go for that world record or whatever, I feel like you have to do really well in these stages, and probably I think it can be done to where you don't miss any of the shrimps, to be honest, too. It's just, it feels like a timing thing more so than anything else is in this game. So here you can see an edit. I went from a full 8 lives down to 4. So I failed at least 4 times. I believe I failed 5 times. Now here you can run through these pretty easy once you get the timing down. And this last tower is, I want to say it's difficult, but I don't think it's the most difficult tower in the game. It's just one that you have to practice at. And then this leap of faith right there, that's something that, again, you just have to figure out, and you either know or you don't. But again, I'm proud to say I did not look up a guide for this game. I figured all this out on my own. It was very difficult and very time consuming, but luckily for me, I don't have a life. I play old video games, so. Now here, that looks like a spot where you should shoot the gap and get rid of that square, but it doesn't seem to work. And I'm actually proud of that, because beforehand I would have let myself get hit with that molecule, but you see I kind of dropped down a platform to avoid it. It took me a while to learn that patience, and that it's better to just drop yourself than to allow yourself to get hit. And I'm not saying I don't let myself get hit anymore in this last level, but at least there I was smarter than the game. Another thing too, if you're going for a high score, is you have to leave as much time in the clock as you possibly can. And one way to do that is to run from the molecules because it'll make them speed up and chase you. So you want to run from them, but at a safe spot on the screen so you can bypass them. And so here we're getting pretty close to the top. I do believe I get knocked down and work my way back up at least one time. And here we're just waiting for the molecule to pass so that we can drop down and then clear this brick. And then go ahead and take the elevator on up. So again, we're getting pretty close to the end of the game here. But I think I get knocked down somewhere here. You see, I almost forgot to go back and shoot that block because you actually couldn't shoot the other blocks from the gap. Yeah, right here I fall because I never made it that far before, so I didn't know which way to go. But apparently that was one of those annoying disappearing platforms. So, and then what happens once I fall, I get turned around a lot too. I don't know if other people experience that when playing this game, but once I take a fall, it takes me a while to get my bearings. And so here, I finally make it to this elevator. I take it up, and you have a choice of 4 doors. And like I said, I figured the third one would be the right door. And luck has it, it was the right door. Now, I asked somebody that knows more about this game. Apparently, if you choose the wrong door, you just fall, which would be really irritating. But here we go, guys. Second game down. So we beat Midnight Mutants. We beat Tower Toppler. Let me know in the comments what game you'd like to see me beat next, because we're going to go through every game I can find for the 7800. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.